give yourselves a voice. You're rubbish at this, you can't do that, this is going to happen, Swansea's not this. And if people spent 10 minutes to sit down and have a chat and start trying to find some common ground, and people's views and opinions, then things would be a lot different.
Unusually, you're the first person we've had be recommended by somebody who's already shared their voice, David.
Oh, right, okay. Well, I don't know whether that was a good thing or not, but I literally, when he sent me that email, because I was about to send him an email, I said, oh, thank you for your chat this morning. He goes, actually, this email's got nothing to do with anything. I'm involved in this with Carl, who's a storyteller. I was like, well, okay, I'll go along with it.
So if you could introduce yourself, your name and your role.
Hi, my name's Luke Anrude. I'm the lead training assessor at Swansea ITEC. And
where is Swansea ITEC, for those who don't know?
We are on the Carmarthen Road, so if anybody knows where Kumbulla Roundabout is, if you're coming from Kumbulla Roundabout going into town, you've got the doctor surgery just on the left-hand side. We are literally turn left just after it, and we're in the car park behind the UCR building on the right-hand side.
Maybe the best way to pick up the thread of this.
Cool. This is why you're a storyteller and I'm not.
This always works out different with different people, and this is the joy of the edit, is I can
move it around.
So where did you grow up? You know, what were you looking to be when you were younger, and sort of what's the journey that's taken you from there to here?
I grew up in southeast London, Peckham, as everybody, only fools and horses jobby. I am literally from there. I moved to Wales then when I was about 8 years old, because we used to come to Cardigan. So we've gone from city living down to as far west as you can imaginably get, in the countryside.
So why was that?
My parents, we literally used to go there on holiday. I'm one of 7 kids basically, so with mum and dad back then, you weren't going abroad anywhere because it was just too expensive many moons ago. And we used to rent like a farm cottage down in Cardigan. And every school holiday, bank holiday, that's when it was a big 13-room farmhouse. It was massive, down like a 1.5 mile track, and we could pretty much run free in the trees and the hills and all the woods and stuff. And just eventually, mum and dad, my nan passed away, and they sold my nan's place in London. And dad and mum just went, well, we're down there so much, we might as well buy a second home, because that's what you did at that time. And literally, I think 2 days after the paperwork went through, my dad just went, right, you and your sister and your mum are moving on the weekend. I've told your school that you're not coming back. That was on the Friday. We were in Wales by the Saturday, and I was living down there and back to school on Monday. So just as you get older, you obviously decide you want a bit more of a livelier lifestyle than the retirement central that is Cardigan. And I moved back to London, and I was working with my brother then, essentially. I've been brought up with, my dad's a mechanic, my brother's an electrician. And then kind of my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, she was just like, right, are you coming back, or that's it? So I eventually migrated my way back down here, and a friend of mine who worked for, this is where my jobs start to vary from building to everything. This is and he got me a job. As you can tell, I'm quite good at talking. I'm not shy of a few words and fairly confident with myself, and got me a sales job. And I was working for EE. At that time, I was 24, 25. Then eventually I got into education, which was 2 years ago. And just randomly, I went to do a course, ironically, at ITEC in October.
Can you say a little bit about what ITEC is actually there for?
Yeah, we're there to provide IT training. We did offer other services, but we do IT apprenticeships. So we'll help learners, obviously train in specific qualifications, and liaise with their bosses. And occasionally a lot of companies that we deal with come to us to help us source the right candidates. A typical apprenticeship when I was a kid was you had 1 day in work, and then 1 day in college, and you were working 4 days a week. That's what I did. Well, now they come to see us 1 day every 2 weeks. They're actually on the job learning a proper apprenticeship.
So clearly, already from some of the stuff you've said about your work with young people through ITEC, it's clear that you can see more in the individual than they can often see themselves.
Yeah.
So how do you manage to to sort of get past the labels which have been imposed and begin to draw out the person?
Take that label off, treat him as a human being first of all. That can literally start with a cup of tea. And that's literally what we did. Have a cup of tea, tell me a bit about yourself. I think once they can relate to people, or anyone can relate to anyone, whether it's older or younger people, I say this from my own experience, and I think if I could broadcast this into every kid's head, when you're in school, you hate education. When you leave school, you can't wait to get as much of it as you can as you get older, right? You're learning every single day. I'm fairly organised. I like to feel I am. I work with 2 women every day that absolutely destroy me in being organised and what they know, and I'm constantly learning. And I think older people and younger people, I'd love to encourage older people, just go and sit with an old person, just talk to them. I think projects like that would be phenomenal, because I think if you can sit them down with an older person who's got all their experience, you take it for granted when you're younger, and don't get me wrong, we've all done it, and I'm not going to say I haven't. Everything my father's ever encouraged me to do, I've hated it up until the last 5 to 7 years. I love photography now. My dad's a photographer. I hated it as a kid because I used to have to carry his battery packs around them. I love photography now. I look at stuff my mum does. I used to hate going to museums. I love going to museums. As you get older, you do kind of yearn for that kind of information. And if you could get, as you said, people on a level where it's just sitting down and speaking to an older person, and then the older person kind of actually realising actually that younger kid isn't so much of a scallywag as whatever we want to call them. They're actually just a kid that needs a bit of guidance, maybe a bit of a chat, and just to interact with them on an adult level. I think because if you're surrounded by your own kind of family circle, I think it's very hard to get away from that. But when you just go and speak to somebody random who's got no understanding of you in the terms of prejudgment on you, they've got no history on you, you actually have more of an honest conversation, because then it is just 2 random, like me and you, we've come on this call, you don't know me from Adam, yet the 2 of us can have a conversation. And I think once you do that, attitudes change. Kids then may feel, or younger people, adults may feel that actually this isn't a bad area to live in. It may not be. And that's all kind of it. And that's before anybody spent any money on infrastructure. As you said, there's just that connect between the people that are here. I think understanding it's cliche as it were, but understanding your future is knowing your past. It's a really cliche thing. And I probably didn't understand this up until, I could easily say, 7 or 8 years ago, when it properly struck a chord with me, when I did start listening to my dad a little bit more, because I've always been quite, as sons and fathers are, but he used to tell me these stories that I've heard 1,000 times over and over again since I was a kid. And then one day he said to me, he's been here since he was 16, he's now in his 80s, he said he was going back to Guyana. He just said, I'm moving. I said, what are you talking about? I was like, you're 86, you can't go. And he said, son, he goes, I've just got an urge to be at home. And he said, I can't explain it to you. And I thought to myself, actually, everybody's got that urge. It's just my dad's probably at old enough age now to accept it. So all those kids that have moved out of Swansea, or younger people, at some point are going to go, I just want to go back. And it's such a strange thing that it just happens like this. And I don't think we appreciate it when we're younger. And
of course, the Welsh have a word for it, don't they? Hooray.
Is it? You can educate me on Welsh. My Welsh is horrendous.
Hooray is that it doesn't have a clear translation in English, but it's that sense of longing to a place.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Return home.
And I think that's where possibly, and it's probably the biggest thing, they've got nothing that they feel that they are proud of. They've got nothing in the back of their heads that makes them want to go home now, apart from when they get older and then they start remembering probably Mrs. Jones that lived next door that used to come out and have a chat with her mum on the wall, and all those silly little idiosyncrasies that we observe on a daily basis, and people's habits of knowing what Di down the road does every Friday night or whatever. Those little things, if they're fond memories, people will stay in an area. But I think if it's full of, you're rubbish at this, you can't do that, this is going to happen, Swansea's not this, and like you said, that makes you then not want to be there. And I think it's that education of changing that process, that thought process of young and old kind of getting together, having a chat, and then old realising that young aren't as bad as they are, and then the young realising the old have actually got a lot to offer, and they've got a lot of life experience, and they've probably been through, well, they have been through more things you could ever imagine. So yeah, that's for me where I think Swansea could start, and more community-based led things, stuff like this for people to listen to, and equally I think encouraging kids to do something like this in general. I think, and this is no kind of thing towards you, because everybody I've seen on's been an adult, but it'd be an interesting perspective to see what a younger person feels of the scenario. And when I say younger, I mean a 15 to 16-year-old. All right, you're probably going to struggle finding one of them who's quite happy to talk, because
I'm going to jump on that. I'm going to jump on that right now, because for anyone who is watching this in that age bracket who does want to take part in these conversations, please do get in touch, because it's something I'm very aware of as being missing at the moment from these conversations. And obviously there are things around consent and all the rest of it that we need to go into, but I do want to hear from any young people out there who do want to share their voice, because your voices do need to be heard.
Yeah, and that's where, as I said, I feel that the disconnect is young people are a vast majority of the population now, and that's only going to get bigger and bigger, yet they seem to be the less heard from, because they don't feel that whatever they say anyway is ever going to be taken any notice of. So again, guys, I know Carl's asking for anyone watching it, I'm encouraging you to go and do it as well, because give yourselves a voice, give something that's not got a political agenda in either direction, for somebody that is just two people having a chat about their stories, their history, what they've appreciated and what they've not appreciated. And I think that's only good. And I think that's the same with all the stuff that's going on with the crazy world at the moment, with COVID and Black Lives Matter movements and those kind of stuff. If people spent 10 minutes to sit down and have a chat and start trying to find some common ground, and people's views and opinions, then things would be a lot different.
Brilliant, Luke. Thank you very much for that. Great talking to you, and I look forward to doing your edit, and I'll
take care. Well, hopefully we'll see you at some point in the future as well.
Absolutely.
Take care now. Have a good evening. Bye bye.
Ta-da.